The city is seeking federal funding for a study to improve at-grade railroad crossings in Edina. A rail line owned by CPKC Railroad runs through the city, and while many crossings are grade separated with streets going over or under the tracks, 7 still remain at street level with varying levels of safety measures. To address this issue, the city would like to complete a railroad crossing safety action plan to see what can be done to improve the situation at each of the 7 at-grade crossings. Until recently, most trains passing through Edina operated during the daytime. Now, the railroad has begun operating these trains at night, which might be disturbing residents since the train horn rule requires engineers to sound train horns at least 15 seconds before entering public grade crossings. Eliminating crossings or making grade separation improvements would remove the need for trains to sound their horns. At crossings where that cannot be done, other safety improvements could be evaluated to make the crossing safer.
We have to first study if we can eliminate any of the crossings, and if we can't, then what can we do to mitigate the risks? To mitigate the risks are pavement markings to show where cars are supposed to stop before they cross the tracks. We can do flashing lights. We can do crossing signage or just overhead arms that stop traffic when a train comes through. So those are really the first steps if we want to consider a quiet zone on our 7 crossings within town.
The city has requested federal funding of $200,000 for creation of the Railroad Crossing Safety Action Plan, which is estimated to cost $250,000. Some have asked if the city can establish quiet zones in the meantime. The city does not have that authority, and the process to establish one can take years.
So if the city wants to establish a quiet zone, that has to be approved by the Federal Railroad Administration. They have to look at the mitigation risk tactics that we want to do at each crossing. We would have to implement those mitigation risk improvements, and then we would be able to implement that quiet zone with them and through them. That process is a multi-year endeavor to get to an officially approved quiet zone.
The city does not expect to hear back from the Federal Railroad Administration about the funding request until March 2025. If the grant is not awarded, there will be no funding available for the study in 2025.